Thank you so much for organizing this. It's obviously been a little bit harder to get FaceTime with recruits, so it's really good to be able to do this with you guys. So I appreciate you guys hosting. So I'm Kate Daly. I'm from Penn State. I'm the head coach of the women's team. Justin and I are going to be kind of tag teaming our 20 minutes because a lot of our information is quite similar. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is academics, because if you're coming to Penn State, you should be coming to Penn State first because you want to go to a school that has extremely great and world-class academics, right? So it should always be about, is the school the right fit for you first from an academic standpoint? So Penn State is an amazing place. It's full of opportunity. We have 275 majors, probably more, probably 200 minors. So there is something here for everybody. And a lot of people get really anxious about going to a really big school because it is a big school, but Penn State really is kind of the epitome of a college town in that the town is here for the college students, right? So it makes it a much smaller community than you think. And being a part of the rugby team also makes it a much smaller community because you already come here with a group of friends that you know that you'll have for a lifetime. Because really when you go to school and you pick a team, those are friends that you will probably be friends with for the rest of your life. At least I am. And I think Justin definitely has friends from college as well that he still relies on quite a bit. So academics, and then the other part that you really want to know about Penn State in terms of academics is University Park, which is where you play rugby. It has 12 different academic colleges. So like the College of Science, the College of Communications. And when you apply to school, you're actually going to apply to one of those specific colleges at the University Park campus. And the other really cool thing is we have something called the Division of Undergraduate Studies, and that's for people who come to school and maybe aren't sure what they want to study yet or aren't sure where they want to go. And that applying to the School of Division of Undergraduate Studies actually allows you then to transfer into your school of choice after your sophomore year. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of your academics and, you know, your long-term path out of college. And some other really important information around applying is our application actually opens quite early. It opens August 1st. So if you are a junior on this call, it's going to be really important that you have your ducks in a row come August 1st, your testing done, all of your ideas of who you want to apply to kind of put together because you're going to be applying before you even start your senior year. So August 1st is when our application opens. And for your best opportunity to get admitted to the school, you actually want to apply by November 1st at the latest. And that's kind of our early action time. And early action isn't in any way of a commitment, but it allows you to get information sooner, usually. Sometimes our admissions office gets a little bogged down. But you have a better chance of getting in if you apply by November 1st, for sure. At the very latest, November 31st. And if you apply after that, it's going to be extremely difficult to get in. So you really want to make sure that you're on the ball and you really know when you're going to be applying to school. From there, the Penn State website is actually like your biggest tool. There's so many majors and you should really look into and do your research about what you want to study at Penn State because every college and every major has so much information available to you. And it will really allow you to come into school knowing like what path you want to put yourself on. The other thing about applying is not only should you apply before November 31st, is you should definitely let Justin and I know when you apply, because then we'll be able to track your application and we'll be able to kind of let you know if there's been any snags in it. Maybe you applied to the Smeal School of Business, which is really, really hard to get into. And if you had applied to DUS, then maybe you would have been admitted, right? So we can kind of help get you guys around those pitfalls as well if that comes to our attention. But the biggest thing that you should think about when you think about Penn State and Penn State rugby is that it's a place of huge opportunity, not from just a rugby standpoint, but from an academic standpoint. Our professors are amazing. Most of them, if you're in the STEM fields, are currently doing research at the university. There's incredible opportunity to do research with our grad programs, even as an undergrad. And obviously, we're a highly ranked business school. We're a highly ranked accounting program. So it's just a school full of huge opportunities academically, but then also from a social standpoint, right? We have every kind of club that you can think of. Obviously, we're a very big sports school, right? So if you enjoy football games, if you enjoy basketball games, there's a huge atmosphere. And obviously, football weekends are pretty exciting in State College. But those are pretty the big key pieces around our academics and applying. And then Justin is going to talk a little bit more about our recruiting, and some other things as well.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. And again, just to reiterate what Kate was saying, thanks for having us, and it's a great opportunity to get on and talk to a lot of students. Just one thing on the application process, the early action piece. A lot of you, your college advisors will tell you, it doesn't really matter. Penn State's on a rolling admissions, so it doesn't matter if you put early action. From my experience this year from incoming students it's really important to mark early action. You get like Kate said, you get your answer really early, or earlier than everybody else. And it just gives you that opportunity to make a really informed decision when that part comes up. So don't wait, don't not put early action. If you want to give yourself the best chance to get in, definitely do that. And then Penn State's also on the Common App now. So they never used to be. The last 2 years, they've gone onto the Common App. So you have that opportunity to mark Penn State on there. Just in terms of recruiting, Kate mentioned it, letting us know about when you do apply. So if you do apply to Penn State and Penn State's where you want to go, you'll get a 9-digit number. We use that as a tag so we can see your application. And that's a big part of the recruiting process for us, because we can see who's applied, where they sit in the process, all those little pieces. Just some logistical pieces about our program. So our rosters are both capped at 45 athletes. So I have 45 men on the men's team. Kate has 45 women on the women's team. So the way we do our recruiting and coming in is very similar. There's a few kind of nuances that are a little bit different, but for the most part, we both hold tryouts at the beginning of the year. So I know Kate mentioned it is about, choose Penn State for Penn State as an academic institution first. Rugby is the really, really nice. I say this to all the recruits actually is, Penn State rugby is a really nice bonus on top of your academics, right? And we play at a really high level. Both of us play in the top competition in the country. So it's not a bonus, like, it is a fun atmosphere, but we're also really serious about what we do. So we have tryouts start of the year, first couple of days of the semester for incoming students. We select our roster and then we take those 45 throughout the year. Because of where we sit at Penn State, we're not a varsity program. We're not a club sport. We sit right in this middle team sport band. What that affords us is a varsity atmosphere in terms of medical coverage, full-time staff, full-time strength and conditioning. We train and play in varsity facilities. So our weight room is a varsity weight room. The medical, our medical room is a varsity level medical coverage. So, if you get injured, which we know play a collision sport, so that does happen. Hopefully it's not an injury that keeps you out of the game for too long, but we do all that in-house. So that's all covered through the program, which is definitely a nice to have. Another piece on the recruiting, I just dropped it in the chat, but for me, I use a Microsoft form, which is really important. Fill that out. That gives me some information on you. Gives me opportunity to set up a phone call and chat to you about what you're looking for when it comes to rugby. A few questions we normally get on these calls is, what are we looking for? So for me, I'm looking for the information that's in the recruit bio. Always good to have film, highlights, or full video. I typically will ask you for one full game that will give me a good sense of what you're like as a player. But obviously highlight video is much easier to watch because it's shorter. It's just your moments, but there's other moments in the game that I like to watch for. So that's why I'll ask for a full length video. I think that pretty much covers the recruiting portion. Kate, did I miss anything?
No, pretty much our system is the same. We have a recruit form. I'll drop it into the chat as well. And then the only difference for us in terms of the way that we fill our roster is if you get into Penn State and you are a rugby player and you do reach out to me, I will let you know prior to our preseason, which happens before school, whether you need to try out or not. So that would be the only difference. So if I know you coming into and I've seen you play, I've watched your video, or I've been to a tournament you're at, I will almost always make a decision about whether you're going to need to try out or whether I'll add you to the roster without a tryout. So that would be the only big difference between how we fill our rosters. No, I think that is about it in terms of athletic support and recruiting.
All right, and then another important piece I think is just what our training weeks look like. So again, very similar for Kate and I. But I'll cover mine, and then I'll let Kate kind of go through what her training week looks like. So from the men's perspective, we're pretty full on. So we train 5 days a week. We're on field 5 days a week. All those sessions look very different in length of time. What we're doing in those sessions, Monday's typically shorter. Tuesday's our longest session. And by longest session, I mean 90 minutes. We cut it at 90 minutes. We don't go longer than that. That is our longest session. And like I said, each day looks a little bit different. We're in the gym 2 to 3 days a week. We play games on Saturdays. Our competition schedule runs from August to December. We take a little break for the winter months, and then we ramp up again February, March, and typically play in the playoffs come April, May timeframe. We'll then switch to a little bit of sevens in the springtime, and we'll play about a month of sevens. And typically we used to play in the CRC. For those on the call that know that, obviously is a big tournament every year down in Philadelphia. That's since gone away, but there's other sevens tournaments in the works now that are supposed to rival that CRCs. And our schedule might change a little bit moving forward. We're toying with the idea of going to a slightly different model, which puts us into more of a 15s focus in the fall and a sevens focus in the springtime. We'll always play some 15s games in the spring, but that just depends on what the men's collegiate landscape looks like as we move into this next school year. On top of the training week, rugby wise, like Kate mentioned, academics is a big piece for us. So we do 4 hours mandatory study hall for all incoming freshmen. Your fall semester, and then your spring semester, you either have to do 6, 4, 2, or 0, depending on your GPA. So it helps you to keep your grades up, then you don't have to do study hall. Well, you're always encouraged to do study hall, but you're not required to. But that's the biggest piece for us, is academics is number one, because rugby is the first thing that goes away if you're not taking care of your academics. So that is really important. So that's our training week, and I'll hand it back to Kate so she can kind of cover hers.
Yep. So our training week is quite similar. We're on the field 5 days a week. Monday has generally been our off day, with Tuesday being our heaviest day. We lift 2 to 3 times a week, depending on if we're in season or if we have games on the weekend. We do our Sunday as our recovery and review day. And then, as Justin spoke about, we do have mandatory study hall. It's only 3 hours for the girls, though. As a freshman, mean. So I guess we'll see who ends up with a better team GPA. And then, but it is quite similar in terms of our competition schedule. If you're not aware, the collegiate landscape is a bit in flux. So at the moment, our competition schedule is we play our conference, which right now we're in the Big Ten conference. We play our conference we play our conference games in the fall for fall 15s. And then in the spring, we compete in the D1 Elite, which actually we're rebranding to the D1A Women. So, and then we would be competing in the national championships in the spring. We then follow with about a month of sevens. We're doing the CRCs, and then we were also doing the USA Rugby Collegiate National Sevens Championships, which I'm sure will be transformed into something new and exciting. What would that be? Spring of 2022?
Yeah.
I did miss one thing that is really important around applying, and has a little bit to do with the current pandemic. And that is, generally speaking, when you fill out your application, you include your GPA and your SATs. But through the fall of 2024, you can make the choice to include your SATs or not, or your testing scores if you want to or not, right? So if you're a 4.0 student, but you don't test well and you get like 1,000 on your SATs, you might consider not including them. But what you want to really consider is, am I painting the best picture to Penn State when I do that, right? And that's really what you want to consider. But that is an option as well that you can be, that you should be aware of. but it's also on the websites. And I can guarantee you all of the information that we've just given you is also available on all of the Penn State websites. It really is your best source of information. And if you need help navigating them, or you need help finding any other information about majors or anything like that, you can certainly reach out to Justin and I. And I think that's about all we have. Or did you want to talk about your competition schedule? You did.
I did. Yeah, no, that's all we have. I think we left about 5 minutes for questions, if anyone has any questions.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
For Coach Katie, we have looked for your recruitment form online, but it actually is just text. It's not a link.
Okay.
So when you drop that in the chat, I'll be happy.
Okay. I will do that for you. Thanks for that. Thanks for letting me know.
Problem.
Any other questions? Daniel?
So like since like this last year, I haven't been able to play like a lot of rugby, and I didn't get much film. Is there any other way I could possibly like showcase my skills, like to get a better chance in the recruiting process?
Daniel, what year are you? Are you a junior or you're a senior this year?
I'm a junior this year.
You're junior. Okay. So hopefully you have an opportunity to play, within the course of either this year or next year. So that'll give you some footage. If you have footage of any other sports that you play, I'm always happy to look at that. We can see a lot from a football film or a soccer film or lacrosse film, especially about your athleticism, right? The rugby piece, while it is important, it's not the be all and end all, right? We're looking for well-rounded athletes and character. So you can see a lot from those sports too about what we're looking for. We typically hold a camp in the summertime too. Hopefully we'll get to do that this year. And I'll always encourage people to attend our camp, because you get an opportunity to not only see the campus, but also get coached by myself and our staff and some of our players. So you can see if Penn State's a really good fit for you that way. But yeah, even if you're doing some just training on your own, some skill stuff, I'd say film that, send that in too. That gives us a good idea of what your skill level is.
Okay, thank you.
And I just dropped our recruiting chat in our recruiting form into the chat for you too.
I saw that. Thank you so much.
Great. Any other questions out there?
I do have one more question for Coach Daly.
Sure.
So we actually have been playing rugby here in South Carolina, and we have a bunch of film. Are you similar to Coach Justin, where you just want to see highlights, full game or highlights, or what is your preference?
My preference is a full game, and then if you can give me some context on the quality of the competition, because sometimes coaches will be like, this was our best game, we beat them by 50 points, but it doesn't really highlight your players' skills necessarily. So if you can give some context to the game that I'm watching, I would appreciate that as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions out there?
No.
I had one to close. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go, Zach, go for it.
So yeah, just wanted to see, if there were any specific skills or qualities that you would recommend a player to work on, to kind of ease the transition from the high school to the college game, or anything that you would look for specifically from a freshman coming in, that might be give them a leg up once they get into at Penn State to the program.
I think fitness is a big piece. Like, so if you're not going to the gym on a regular basis, that's like a good thing that you would want to do before the summer, before you get into like kind of a full-time and training environment. Go ahead, Justin. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. I mean, I think the college game, the speed and physicality of the college game is a big jump from high school. So I think preparing yourself for that is really important. And I think just basic core skills are really important. So catch pass is a huge one. I think that's something that, given that we've had 12 months off from rugby, I think general skills are going to drop a little bit. but I think that those are things you can do on your own, right? So catch pass, some kicking, track to tackle, clean out work. Look at a lot of those areas. Even if it's just grabbing a friend or brother, sister, whatever it is, right? You can work on those skills on your own away from a team environment. Those are things that are really important that can get you ready for a college game.
Yep, I would just echo that. Core skills is key.